Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first of four Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise League qualifiers. I am Neem. I am joined by Casual Geek Dave. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing great, Neem. How you doing?
Not too shabby. A little bit of a setup scramble here at the end, but we're getting everything together, and we've got a lot of people in this race. It's kind of crazy to see. Considering the league had about 120 signups total, just the sheer amount of people in this race is pretty astounding. Definitely the biggest Final Fantasy IV free enterprise randomizer race we've had so far.
A lot of excitement around this league, and really good to see this community is just growing leaps and bounds.
And it'll definitely be interesting to see here. If you're not familiar with Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, what it is essentially an open world randomizer where you have the free airship. You can take the airship wherever you want in the overworld. You got to kind of work your way down into the underworld and then eventually find the crystal to defeat Zemus.
The analog that I usually use for it is because a lot of people are familiar with Link to the Past randomizer races because it's kind of a treasure hunt. And this is very similar. We're looking for key items that can get us to the end to get to Zemus. And so we're very much on a treasure hunt of our own here.
And actually, it's going to be a rather fascinating start here as Rubicante, the king of, or I guess the guard of Baron, head guard, is going to give us the magma key, and what that's going to do is open up the underworld immediately. And right out of the gate, that's a bit of a curveball because that changes what the ideally in these flags, what you want to do, since the flags are T4, which means every single item in the game is available in treasure chests aside from key items. So you can get very powerful weapons like the crystal sword or the white spear or anything you can imagine, Adamant Armor. A lot of people will be checking items first, and having the underworld open this early provides not only free access to key items, but more free locations to check for items.
Yeah, it's definitely going to probably cause a lot of variation with paths that the racers choose. There's going to be a lot of available paths.
And right out of the gate, it looks like all four of our runners are electing to go into the town of Baron. The town of Baron has quite a huge number of hidden treasures within it, and like I said, any number of these can be something fantastic. So you definitely want to check as many as you can. And I also noticed a couple of these runners checking the item shop, and right out of the gate, we also have some very important key items that are unique to the Japanese version. We've got Zeus Rages, we've got Bacchus Wines, we've got Gaia. So going down the list, Bacchus Wines will cast Berserk on your characters. Sovereign will counter the rarest encounter in the area that you're in. This is very, very, very useful for grinding. Gaia Drums, which will cast the level 2 version of the spell, Zeus Rage, will do Lit 2 across all enemies at a fixed amount of damage. So that's a very, very effective game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help. You're going to see a lot of our racers, too, because of the league qualifier flags we're using. Randomly, in one of these shops is going to be checking item shops, hoping to get that pass.
And as you can see, we do have a bit of a divergence here. We have Penguinator immediately cashing in that magma key, whereas Invenerable has gone to the town of Damsian to loot the basement there, and whereas Nightdew and Supremacy are making their way through the town of Mist. General strategy in these flags is to basically bulk up as much as you can by acquiring as many high-powered treasures and or attack items. You gather enough stuff so you can sell, so you can buy attack items, and that'll get you through the beginning of the scene. And obviously, the more end-game equipment you find early on, the better off you are.
Definitely, any kind of early advantage here, especially, is definitely going to help. The great part about these Japanese key items, the Japanese items being enabled is it gives our runners a little bit of a leg up in some of the early bosses that would normally be a challenge at such early levels, but some of these items can definitely be an equalizer in those contests.
And here we have more of that divergence. Penguinator electing to go underground early on. He's going to be looting the dwarf castle here. He does find a Stardust Rod for his trouble. Stardust Rod is the item that casts Comet when used, and you can use that as many times as you want. So that's a great early item find, especially when you have mages like Rydia and Palom.
Yeah, that's going to be borderline necessary with a party as squishy as Rydia and Palom. They're going to need every advantage they can get to face early game bosses.
So we have Invenerable going through Antlion Cave. That's going to be the first item. And we also have Supremacy heading up to Mount Hobbs. And with these flags, we have what's called the no free lunch flag on. Typically, when you do a free enterprise race or a free enterprise randomizer run, you could go to all the places where in vanilla you would acquire characters, and you could just pick up characters. You can go to Mysidia, you can go to the Watery Pass. All of these places will have characters, but with no free lunch on, every character you acquire, you definitely have to put in some work. Like, for example, on Mount Hobbs, you have to defeat a boss to get the character here, who is going to be Yang, who is a pretty decent frontliner.
Yeah, that's definitely a kind of a boon for them to get, for any of the racers to get at this point, having those mages, having a somewhat tankier character. Unfortunately, early game Yang does not get heavy, anything like that, but having the physical damage will definitely be helpful.
So nightdew also working on the fight on Mount Hobbs as well. As you can see, the Zeus Rages being very, very effective. A nice AoE spell, does about 500 damage to everything, takes out most early game bosses pretty much instantly.
Meanwhile, Penguinator is opting to go down into the underground and is currently making his run through to the Land of Summons, hoping to get that key item there, and will likely check the shop there as well.
So we've got Invenerable working on the fight in Antlion Cave here. Looks like he's got having a little bit of trouble taking out these soldiers. Looks like he might have came down here without any attack items, but he does have a dancing dagger, and that's going to get him some early levels and help him on through here. And we'll see what our first key item of the qualifier race is here.
Looks like the Antlion Cave got Invenerable the spoon, and I believe I saw the Sand Ruby for Penguinator in the Land of Summons.
Yep, so both the spoon and the Sand Ruby, not exactly the best early game items you want to see. The Sand Ruby will get you in Kaipo, whereas the spoon is pretty much useless unless you have Edge, in which case it does 9,999 damage to an enemy of your choosing.
Sand Ruby can definitely be really underrated. The good part about it is it's going to give them the choice. The additional party member, especially this early on, is going to make a big difference. In these league flags, as soon as they hit 5 party members, they're going to get increased experience, which is going to help them get along here. And any additional party member is going to just definitely help them create their ideal party for what they want to go to the end game with. But there are definitely other more useful key items that open up more locations, such as like the Baron key. That would definitely be useful to.
We also see Supremacy running through the Sylph Cave to talk to Yang, and what that's going to do is it's going to unlock basically a trigger which will allow one key item from Yang's wife, Sheila. As long as you talk to Yang in the underground, she will say like, "Oh, hey, he's in the underground. Good job finding him. Here's key item." So once Supremacy is done with the underworld, he will come back up and check what that is. Invenerable also picking up Yang here, as Nightdew will be picking up the spoon here in Antlion Cave. And it looks like Penguinator has found some Cure 3s, so he's selling off some stuff, and he's going to pick up some Moon Veils and some Cure 3s. Moon Veils are an item that are very powerful. They not only do they cast wall on your character, but they also give you some crazy damage immunity. And we'll be seeing who the Sand Ruby character is momentarily. It's looking like it's going to be a disappointing find.
Supremacy now making their way down into the land of summons. While Nightdew is finishing up the Antlion Cave.
Alright, Invenerable looking to make his way down into the underworld, as Nightdew has made their way into the town of Fabul, as Supremacy doing the full underworld tour. So one of the things in this game that we have neglected to mention so far is that any item shop in these particular flags has the capability of selling what's called the pass, as we actually do see the pass here. It is in one of the random shops, item shops across any of the towns, and the pass is a free thing that's unique to, well, the item itself is not unique to Free Enterprise Randomizer, but the effect is, which will take you straight to the final boss, but you still need the crystal to defeat the final boss, and obviously the levels, so you don't get owned. But the pass is a good find for Nightdew there, and we will definitely be seeing a lot of people picking that up. But I believe it was in Fabul.
Alright, Nightdew now going into a fight with Golbez. He's, with only 3 party members, he's likely going to see 1 party member drop. With this party configuration, could be pretty difficult. If he has an item like Star Veils or something similar, where he can make it a somewhat easy fight, but we'll see here what Nightdew is able to do.
Golbez is one of those bosses that can be really tricky, because he's firing off a lot of high-level spells very quickly, and if he's in any location that has a high magic power, he's going to be doing thousands of damage. But fortunately, the Fabul Gauntlet location is one of the spots that is probably one of the weakest magic powers in the game, so even though he's firing off Fire 2s and Viruses and Lip 3s, he's not doing a terrible amount of damage. And so it looks like Nightdew is going to be A-okay making it through here. Party members not taking too much damage, and we're going to be alright.
Not too bad at all. Supremacy now making their way to Kaipo to turn in that Sand Ruby to get their disappointing find of their own. Penguinator, meanwhile, making his way down into the Antlion Cave.
And the item from the King of Fabul, the Twin Harp, a fan of legendary rock ballads from our boy Edward. That's going to open up Cave Magnet Cave?
Magnus, yeah, I think it's Magnus. I tend to refer to it as the Dark Elf Cave. Makes it a little easier to remember. Invenerable finished checking up the dwarf castle for treasure in the item shop. Looks like he is doing another shop and treasure pass to the southern village of tomorrow.
So for those unfamiliar with this run, it depends on how the seed plays out. These runs can take anywhere from about a half hour to an hour and a half, depending on the way the seed is laid out. There's pretty big variance when it comes to what this game can dish out. And it's interesting to see the route divergences here. Nightdew has elected to do most of the overworld as early as possible, whereas Penguinator and Supremacy and Invenerable have all elected to dip into the underworld, and I'm interested to see what the first item from Sheila is going to be. That could be a definite make or break difference in this race. If that's something super effective and something that's needed to progress, or something that leads on a chain that leads to something that's needed to progress, it will be very beneficial for those who went down to Sylph early. And it's also like a routing preference, because not only can you go into Fabul, you can do the fight and then immediately turn around and talk to Sheila, and she'll give you a key item. So it's a nice 2 key item check, very quick here, as Penguinator is going to be making his way in to do just that.
It's one of the great part of randomizer races such as this is just the most minute change in route can really make a big difference between the runners' times. And you never know what key item you're going to get, and getting that early advantage, or with the right key items, can really make a difference. Supremacy having a little bit of a tough time on the bottom right here with Pale Dim, but making quick work of it with that Gaia Drum.
So the fight in Baron Inn, it's a quick 2 boss battles, and then you are given a character and a key item for your troubles, but it's also, from an early game standpoint, it's one of the earliest and most difficult locations you can get to right out of the gate. So it can be definitely a dangerous spot. The first boss fight, usually not the worst, but the second boss fight has like about 4,500 hit points, and so it can be really difficult to trudge through those hit points, especially if you run into something mean like Keinazo, whose big wave is going to be based off of HP damage. And so it looks like Supremacy is going to be in a little bit of trouble here. Hoping to get lucky with this Grimoire.
And you got Rama with that Grimoire. Not a bad thing at all, but it was not enough to finish off Keinazo.
Looking like
Supremacy opting to reset.
Yeah, the reset coming out, that's going to hurt a bit. Never a good feel when you have to reset because you can't kill a boss. That's just literally wasted time. But fortunately, was smart enough to safety save before that, so not the worst thing in the world. One of the features of this randomizer is having not only dash on the Super Nintendo version, which is very nice, but also essentially twice the menu speed that the vanilla Super Nintendo version has, and that allows for saves and whatnot to be done much faster than normal. And so if you don't safety save and you die, it's really on you, which is exactly what I did last night.
Metaphysical Mind in chat asks, you can save as much as you want in these qualifiers. Yes, you can. It's based just purely on completion time. There's no limits to saves, resets, whatever is needed to get you to the end.
We see Penguinator in the top right making good use of those moon veils. Moon veils casting Reflect, and anything Golbez throws at you, it's thrown right back at him, and he'll go down without too much of a fuss.
As far as rules, Metaphysical, the only thing I am aware of is really just, foreknowledge, cheating. Our streamers are going to stick to themselves. Their chat's not enabled, anything like that. So just running the race and getting through it. As far as in-game, any limitations that are in place place because of the flags that are enabled on it. So certain glitches and stuff like that are not enabled for these qualifiers, so they're not actually able to perform them. Alright, nightdew making their way through the Sylph Cave, making their way out.
It's actually looking like Penguinator did not go through Sylph Cave, and so we won't know what this item is here until Supremacy finishes up Golbez.
It is worth noting 3 of our racers have obtained the pass at this point. If they find the crystal key item, they will be in go mode and ready to go. The pass allows them to, from Troya, to go straight to Zemus without having to go to the moon. So that is a great item for them to have found. Looks like Penguinator's opting to face Baron N. And Invenerable currently facing the Fabul Gauntlet.
Alright, so Supremacy done with Golbez and Fabul. He's going to go ahead and run over to Sheila, and we are going to see what the first item is here, finally. And will be interesting to see what item is behind Kainaso here as well.
Alright. Looks like Sheila is going to give them the Pinktail.
So the Pigtail will always lead you to an Adamant Armor, which is a good, nice, really nice piece of equipment. Adamant Armor, by and large, the best armor in this game, hands down. But doesn't help you progress at all. And in order to get the Adamant Armor, you need to go to the Adamant Grotto, which requires that you have the hook, which is the airship hook that allows you to pick up the hovercraft. And we haven't seen that quite yet, so ultimately will pan out for at least these runners, but not what you want to see.
Yeah, the pink tail gives the adamant armor. The rat tail is a turn in at the same adamant grotto that'll enable them to get another key item. So if they get the hook and the rat tail, you could see them turn in there for both the adamant item and another key item.
So ultimately, the only spots we have left that we haven't seen are this Kainatsu fight here in Baron. We have not seen the Twin Harp fights. And we have not seen the Earth Crystal. So there's actually 3 options on the table. There's the Cave Magnus, there's the Tower in Tower of Babel in the Underworld, and there's now the Tower of Zot in the Overworld.
Yeah, that is very true. I definitely think we'll likely see our racers begin to converge on Troya. From there, it'll be a matter of whether or not they're going to likely go to Zot or to the Magnus Cave. I would be surprised to see any of them rush Tower without the Tower Key. Many racers tend to avoid it unless they have the Tower Key and worries that they'll have to double dip. There's always the possibility that the Tower Key is in the tower itself, but a lot of runners tend to hold off on that.
Yeah, these flags are definitely screaming, hey, go to Troya. You know, you got the Earth Crystal, you got the Twin Harp. The Earth Crystal unlocks 16 treasure chests in the Troya Castle, as well as gives 2 character slots and a key item. So definitely one of the most beneficial early game locations to check, as you can kind of fill out your party, get a whole bunch of items, and kind of be on your merry way. But that being said, it also wouldn't surprise me if one of these runners decided, you know, hey, you know, there's 65 people, or I don't know how many people are in this race. It's probably about 65 in this race. You know, how many of them are going to go to the tower and check this? And if I get lucky, then hey, I'm way ahead of the pack here. So be interesting to see. It's looking like nightdew is going to go to the Tower of Zot, checking all of these treasures here, and then we'll likely head on up.
The Tower of Zod also has the potential for 2 party members to join, so that can be a fantastic change, especially with Edward being in the available party member pool. They're definitely going to want to look to recruit and replace him in addition to fill out their party. And I'm not, if it was really quick, I'm not sure if I saw that, but I believe Penguinator just picked up a crystal sword on Ordeal, so Cecil would actually be a good pickup for many of them at this point.
Yeah, the crystal sword, by and large, Cecil's best weapon in the game, the most powerful weapon in the game by a long shot. It basically turns Cecil into the strongest melee fighter in the world. So a good pickup if you have a paladin, but so far no paladins in sight.
Yeah, for comparison, the 2 key items, the Adamant and the Legend Sword, are used to create the Excalibur, which is considered to be one of the best weapons in the game. The Crystal Sword is even more powerful than that, and really packs a punch.
It's actually really interesting to me that both Penguinator and Supremacy have elected to go to Mount Ordeals. Typically, this is not a play that's statistically a good idea because you have to slog through 3 boss battles just to get 1 key item, but it does turn Dark Knight Cecil into a paladin, and it also unlocks all of Tella's spells, but with the parties that we have so far, neither of which are going to be beneficial at this point. So definitely an interesting play from both Penguinator and Supremacy, maybe hoping to look into some items up here.
I also think I have to assume it has to probably do with levels as well. They have pretty squishy parties. I mean, Edward's not bringing much to the mix. They have the twins and Rydia with very low health. So the hope may be to absorb some levels and find some decent key items to help for the next leg of the race. Palom, as he levels, is going to become more of a powerhouse. Once he gets Virus and Quake, he'll be much more viable to use. So every level towards him is going to help a lot.
And boy, oh boy, is that a scary boss here in the back attack.
Yeah.
It's going to be Wyvern. Wyvern actually has a special dedicated flag. You notice that W in the flag stream. Wyvern typically opens with a Mega Nuke, which does anywhere from 5 to 9,000 damage, but thankfully, we have the nerf Wyvern flag on, so he's only going to be spamming nukes, so no big deal. So this is going to be a difficult fight. We've got about 3,000 HP at this location, and with items and Stardust Rods, it shouldn't be too terribly difficult to do that damage here, but looks like Penguinator is struggling a bit, and I think nightdew noped out of that fight as well. Oh, sorry, not nightdew. Supremacy was the one that was there. I got confused.
Meanwhile, Cadazo's giving Invenerable a little bit of a hard time in the bottom left, doing what he can to mitigate here, trying to pick up the pieces. nightdew making his way through the Tower of Zot. And
the Wyvern fight,
in a rough position here with Wyvern Z.
Wyvern fight really isn't too bad. As long as you have life potions, you can typically pick people up faster than he can put them down. And as he can only target 1 person per nuke, it's not the worst thing in the world. As you see, Penguinator has revived the better majority of his party. So,
and you can notice the priority there. He went after Palom first, just in case he accidentally took out Wyvern before he could bring up the rest of the party. The hope there is definitely giving that XP boost to Palom towards better spells.
I think he's just looking for bodies to eat nukes at this point.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't hurt. Supremacy now also dealing with Wyvern.
nightdew taking a trapped chest fight. It's going to yield the Power Shirt. Power Shirt gives plus 15 strength, so a pretty decent pickup. There's definitely worse things you can find out there. There's better things too, but I mean, I'll take a Power Shirt any day.
Especially for Yang, that's a fantastic find. He's very unique with his weapons, and that most of them, for the most part, don't actually raise his strength. They primarily just impact the element of his attack, the Cat Claw being the exception to that.
This Wyvern is definitely putting up a bit of a fight here. Penguinator struggling to do any damage, though he does have Artemis arrows, and Artemis arrows do a significant amount of damage to dragons, but I'm not sure he has any bows he can use. And Supremacy, looks like Supremacy did take a reset, but will be going at Wyvern again here as well.
Supremacy having less party members here is definitely putting him at more of a disadvantage compared to Penguinator in this fight. Having bodies to eat those nukes definitely is advantageous. Penguinator also using the Stardust Rod to great effect, as is Supremacy. And looks like Penguinator was able to get past Wyvern.
And Supremacy with the Grimoire. Boom, Wyvern down as well. So you notice how long Penguinator's fight was compared to Supremacy's here. So definitely,
those Grimoires can make a big difference. There's a lot of randomness involved, and when they go right, they really help. Nothing like a random Bahamut out of nowhere to really, get you a good time. In that case, it was Sylph, but just as helpful.
We've also got nightdew in the top left, fighting Dr. Luge and Balnam, but they are located in the Tower of Zot, where the Magus Sisters normally are. And they can be a bit of a troll. You have to fight both Dr. Luge and Balnam, and then immediately afterwards you have to fight Dr. Luge's, I guess, robot form? I guess he's a robot?
We'll just say it's final form.
Yeah,
it's
final
true form.
Yes. And
oh my dear.
here we have Penguinator coming up against another actually rather difficult boss most of the time, Valvolus. Valvolus has a ton of evasion, pretty much the only enemy in the game that can utilize evasion. For every other enemy in this game, evasion essentially does nothing. And
the fortunate part is the low HP pool, which Penguinator is showing there, making quick work of it. In any other slot with higher HP, without having Kane in your party, Valvolus can be quite the wild card.
Yeah, so seeing Valvolus at Dark Knight's location is actually kind of really beneficial. And it's looking like it's gonna be the Baron key up here, so that unlocks the Castle of Baron, which will unlock one key item location and one character if our runners elect to go that direction.
Yeah, and at this point, the party members from Baron and Tower of Zot could be very advantageous to our runners. They have a pretty squishy party, very caster heavy. I'm sure they're going to look to even that out and definitely get rid of Edward.
So you notice Invenerable on the bottom left actually fighting an egg here, and so what Invenerable has done has purchased Sirens, and these eggs give 34,000 experience each, and so definitely a very good early game play to get a couple of levels. This will allow Inven to get through boss fights with relative ease, as all of their characters get more and more levels here. An interesting play to level early. A lot of people, one of the features of the randomizer is when you have acquired 10 key items, at least on the E3, E0 through 3 flags, it boosts the amount of experience you get to double. And also, the experience in this game is not split between your party members. So essentially, at any point in this game, you're getting 5 times the amount of normal experience. And when you have 10 key items, it's 10 times the amount of normal experience. And so when you start fighting eggs, you get a significant amount of experience. You notice the level up message there, 10 levels, 9 levels, 12 levels. And having some early game firepower, Palom can learn Quake relatively quick, and Quake is a very, very good multi-target spell that can do a significant amount of damage.
As well as Virus, and in that first fight there, he wasn't able to secure both of those spells, so that's definitely a great thing here. nightdew, meanwhile, is made his way to the top of the Tower of Zot, and 2 fantastic physical characters, Sid and Kane here. So we'll definitely see him likely fill out his party with both.
See you, Sid.
And Sid is gone.
I've seen a lot of runners elect to hang on to Rydia for longer than what is normally considered optimal, because T4 allows for any of the summons, Leviathan, Bahamut, Odin, They can all be in chests. So if you pick up a Bahamut, Radiate goes from being kind of there to one of the most powerful casters in the game with the ability to cast just the one spell.
Yeah, her utility skyrockets the moment you get Leviathan or Bahamut, almost as useful as Fusuya. And she's faster to boot, so it's very useful utility once you get those for her. Until then, though, she's mostly just there. At least she has this. From a lot of her runners, she has the Stardust Rod in this, but she definitely can't tank any hits.
And nightdew running into a bit of trouble here. Magus Sister's doing 1100 damage with their Delta attack. That's going to take down any of the characters here. And unfortunately, since Kane has just joined the party, he's only level 10. And so he's not doing the damage he may be normally able to do. 500 is not bad. It's better than the 100 you did the first time. And so a little bit of trouble here. But hopefully nightdew is able to clutch this out.
Invenerable, in the meantime, is taking the time to continue to grind for a minute here. Finally deciding to step away. He's grinded enough. May decide to go to tower. Looks like he's making his way out of the underground. And is making his way to Troya as well.
Not particularly surprising, considering the Earth Crystal is a very tantalizing option with two characters available.
Two characters, those chests as well. There's a lot of good reasons to head that direction.
Yeah, but Invenerable will have the advantage of the levels. You see him moving quick to the top of the menu there. Definitely the point of that grind is to have Palom with Quick. He's going to be doing a significant amount of damage. He's actually going to go to Cave Magnus first. Interesting play.
Supremacy finishing up the Baron Inn. We'll see here if they make the decision to go to Baron Castle. Looks like they may be. Taking a little pit stop at the weapon and armor shop first to see what they have available.
It's actually one of the lesser known treasure chest locations. You can kind of sneak around the side there, go in the back, and loot the two chests that the vendors have. And nightdew has picked up the hook from the Earth Crystal Tower of Zot. The hook is going to allow nightdew to cash in the rat tail and the pink tail in the event that they do have them. Nightdew currently does not have the pink tail. And it unfortunately doesn't unlock much else. It does unlock a character if you walk all the way through the Cave of Eblin, but that's about it.
And some runs as well, it could be advantageous to check in with Eblin Cave in hopes of getting the pass, but in this case they already have it. So it looks like nightdew is going to take the time to go ahead and take a rest and grind out a little bit. Invenerable finding Leviathan for Rydias. That's fantastic find.
Leviathan definitely going to make Rydia a super viable character here. She's going to be doing much more damage than she might have been doing in the past. And
making their way through the underground through to the Baron Castle. Meanwhile, Invenerable is beginning the Dark Elf fight.
So once again, this is Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise League Qualifier race. This is the first of four. The top 32 participants in all four qualifiers will proceed on to a round-robin format group stage of sorts. And so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
And if you find this randomizer interesting, if you've never tried it, definitely feel free to check out ff4-free-enterprise.com. We have a fantastic Discord community that you can join to get involved, and you can check out the randomizer there. It's a lot of fun. We have a fantastic community, so definitely get in there. We'd love to have you.
So Supremacy has elected to go through the Barren Waterway and is now trying to beat up Captain of the Guard Rubicant. And the Baigen location, probably one of the worst ones to run into Ruby at early on. He's doing a significant amount of damage, but the main thing is Baigen is really fast, so this can be a little bit rough. And we find Yang, the true hero that Dark Elf has decided to turn.
The almighty
himself
karate
into.
man here to knock us all down.
And meanwhile, nightdew has elected to check the dwarf castle here and is going to be going up against Asura. Asura can be a particularly nasty fight if you don't have the means to cast a wall on Asura, but I think nightdew has enough veils to get those walls up. The problem is they're moon veils, so that will make Asura immune to physical damage. So we'll see how this plays out. Oh no, Kane's doing a ton of damage. Should be okay. So a lot of divergence in the routing here. People trying their different locations, trying to get lucky here. As Supremacy is going to finish looting up the Baron Castle on the bottom right here. Karate Man down for Invenerable in the bottom left, and nightdew working on Asura as Penguin Eater finishes up Zot. It's looking like Cave Magnus will lead you to the Tower Key, and that's going to be the key to the Super Cannon room in the Tower of Babel. So the top of the Tower of Babel has a freely available key item, and then that key right there will allow another key item location in the Tower of Babel to become open. So 2 spots down there available for Invenerable now.
It'll be interesting to see if Invenerable chooses to go to Tower of Zot from here, or opts to go straight to the Tower in the Underground where they can get 2 key items.
So nightdew making short work of Asura, and backing up Asura is Odin, and nightdew has also found Rosa. Rosa, the...
Always a good party member pick.
Yeah.
Very popular.
Definitely the person you want to see here, having a white mage. She's definitely the best white mage by and large, just because of her HP pool growth. She also learns more effective spells faster than Porom does. So Rosa always a welcome sight.
Rydia getting the boot for Rosa, not too surprising there. And beginning with the Odin fight. Invenerable, meanwhile, took the time is making their way up Tower of Zot, hoping to see what party member they can get, as well as like key item. Supremacy, finishing with Rubicante, is making their way deeper into Baron Castle.
Little did you know, the King of Baron all along was a shiny moon boss. At this point, it's got to be Ogopogo, Plague, or Lunar Dragons. It's Plague.
There could be worse places to run into Plague, but Plague always can throw you through for a curveball here.
And this location's not too terrible, as Plague doesn't have much of a hit point pool to work with, but go too slow and you're gonna die.
And unfortunately, their base damage output isn't crazy high, so he is going to have to be a little creative here on taking Plague down.
And the Dwarf Castle leading to the Rat Tail, and fortunately for nightdew already has the hook, so we'll be able to check what that Rat Tail actually leads to here. And things looking a bit scary here for Supremacy. The timer has ticked down to 0. People are dropping like flies. And that's going to be a reset. Ouch. Definitely an unfortunate bit of luck for Supremacy there. Not able to pump out the damage quite fast enough.
Definitely not great. Looks like nightdew making their way over to the Adamant Cave. We're going to see what the Rat Tail is going to provide. And it looks like the pan.
So the pan is what leads to the second item available from Yang's wife Sheila. So we know that the first item was, in fact, the the pink tail. So nightdew will be able to do both items from Yang's wife there in a row. But still no crystal sighting, still no darkness crystal sighting. Still a lot of things on the table here. It'll be interesting to see where these items actually are.
Yeah, with what we know now, that could be buried in the Sylph Cave. There's a strong chance it could be in the tower.
So what's left on the table? We have both item locations in the tower. We've got the second item from Sheila.
The Luca Cave.
Got the Luca Cave. And I believe that might be it. So we've got Penguinator and Invenerable both finishing up the Tower of Zot here. Looks like both of them electing to take only Kane and not Sid. Much like nightdew did.
nightdew making their way into the Sylph Cave as we suspected they might. Here to give Yang a good pat on the head with a pan. Nothing says love like a pat on the head with a pan.
Whack.
Trenton in chat noted, interesting to not check the Eblon town item shop. I think at this point for many of the runners, they found most of what they need. They found sirens and boxes and Baron, and most of them have found the passes, so they're probably not going to go out of their way to check a lot of the item shops unless they're just so happen to be there. So Supremacy making their way back into Baron, hoping to take down Plague. And nightdew making their way to Sheila for another visit. And the pink tail.
Did nightdew not get the second item?
I guess not. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't. Oh, he didn't talk to her again. Oh yeah, you gotta talk to her twice.
Yeah, nightdew just didn't get the second item. Fascinating.
Yeah, he forgot to talk to her again.
Well, maybe trying to give the pan to the Adamant Grotto guy will
hopefully that'll
trigger the memory. Yeah, and trip some alarms.
Yeah, he immediately he hit the pan there, so hopefully that'll red flag him on that. I hope so. You hate to see when something like that happens. Looks like Invenerable making their way to the Adamant Cave as well.
Yeah, and looking like nightdew running back.
Yeah, realizing what happened. Sheila, baby, one more time, just one more time.
And looking like Supremacy, still struggling with Plague here, electing to kill off and pick up Edward. And what that's going to do is reset the timer on count. Or at least, hopefully people... Usually what happens is... Well, Plague's actually going down here, but Plague would have reset the timer back to 10, and everybody would have still been alive. But fortunately, Plague is down.
And we see Darkness Crystal coming from Sheila.
So Darkness Crystal...
Invenerable making their way into the tower.
Yeah, Invenerable is in the Tower of Babel. So Darkness Crystal is not exactly useful here unless... This is no free lunch, so one of the items is gated behind Rydia's mother, and the only way you get the item from Rydia's mother is by defeating the Mist Dragon, and we have not seen the Mist Dragon's location here at all. So it's possible that these runners might actually have to go to the moon to defeat the Mist Dragon to unlock the final item, which may be the crystal. We shall see. But we do have an item coming up here for Supremacy.
There is some additional places with bosses that you may see them check. There's the first cave right after Baron. There's the Octomom slot. There's places like that if it comes down to having to check, they may have to dip into to check for the Mist Dragon.
It's also looking like Nightdew electing to go into the Tower of Babel as well, but Nightdew does not have the tower key, unlike Invenerable, so a risky play here from Nightdew. And unfortunately for Supremacy, all of that work leads to the Legend Sword.
Ah, you hate to see it.
So Penguinator is also in the town of Baron, gonna fight Rubicon. I already fought Rubicon actually. He's gonna fight Plague for the Legend Sword. So we've got the 2 tower locations. We've got Mist Dragon. We've got Sealed Cave, and that is all that's left on the table here.
Invenerable making their way to the top. Looks like guard fight potentially.
Yep, that's going to be the Baron guards. This can actually be a very tricky fight if you don't have hourglasses, as these guys like to counter with everything on the planet. So
I believe they can be muted as well. They counterattack with some pretty rough status effects if you don't mute them. I could be mistaken on that though.
yeah, they are very susceptible to all kinds of status ailments, but if you hit them with a physical attack, they'll cast Size. If you hit them with a magical attack, they'll cast Piggy. They are some mean dudes.
And Size can be pretty rough. When you get hit with Size, if they hit you with a physical attack, it can almost guarantee a one-hit KO in some cases. Nightdew remembering to use that mute to good effect.
Penguinator making short work of Plague there. Gonna be disappointed in the Legend Sword pull. So in terms of what's left, one of these locations will have to lead to the Luca key. As I guess not. I guess you can pull the crystal and a final item as well. But hey, there it is, Luca key for Invenerable at the top of this tower. And then everything else is going to be some sort of dead end item. We know that the item from the tower key is either going to be the adamant or the crystal. So a 50-50 shot for Invenerable here to pull the crystal.
Yep, as soon as they leave the tower, a small cutscene will take place, and they're going to get one more key item here. And we'll have that 50-50 shot here to see which item they're going to get.
It'll be fascinating to see if the Luca key actually leads to the crystal, because anybody who would have ran up to the top of the tower and done that first then runs to the Luca key, if that leads to the crystal, then you have a much freer path than just about anybody else who's done the run around in this seed.
Triton and Chad did make a good point, 1 in 3 chance, because the package has not been found yet. Invenerable now, making their way out of the tower. Let's see what key item they're going to get. And it is the crystal. Invenerable now officially in go mode. Going to see them immediately go here to grind, prepare for the Zemus fight.
Yep, Invenerable is in pretty good shape here. No one else on the screen has done Cave Magnus for the tower key. And so the path is to get the Twin Harp from the King Fabul. And once you have the Twin Harp from the King Fabul, you go to Cave Magnus, you pull that tower key, and you go to the Super Cannon, you get yourself a crystal. So we've got a lot of grinding on our plate now.
Invenerable, and it looks like Nightdew's opting to take the time to grind here as well a little bit more.
And Triton does raise a good point. Both nightdew and Invenerable do have 10 key items, so they are getting double experience from these eggs, so 68,000 a pop. It's going to level us up nice and fast, and Invenerable looking pretty good here.
Yeah, they seem to be pretty happy with their party for the end run, so even for nightdew, not a bad time if he's happy with their party. That go ahead and grind out those levels here, make the rest of the run a lot easier, in addition to being ready for that Zemus fight. Penguinator, meanwhile, having a little bit of problem with Ashura. Supremacy taking on the Dr. Luge fight.
And ladies and gentlemen, we do have a finish. Our first place finisher in our first qualifier is going to be El Magus with a time of 54 minutes and 47 seconds. Congratulations to El Magus.
Well done, El Magus.
So a first place finish in these qualifiers pretty much all but guarantees that you're going to get in, unless somehow literally everybody else in the race finishes at the same time you do at the very start. But even then, I think it would kind of skew in your favor. But yeah, so El Magus definitely qualifying for the round robin brackets.
Definitely very likely.
So let's talk a bit about what the Zemus fight entails and what we're grinding for.
Well, there's definitely a lot that goes into the Zemus fight, and depending on how they want to set up too. One of the things is Zemus' agility. It's very, very fast boss, but the big thing as far as what they're grinding to achieve, especially with Porum and Palom in their party, is HP. Zemus's big attack is Big Bang, which can easily hit, depending on items, anywhere between 1,600 to 2,200 worth of damage. They're definitely going to grind to be able to at least take that to an extent. If their timing is good enough, they can cause Zemus to counter slightly before using Big Bang, which would nerf it, but it's still good to be prepared for most of the party to be able to take the Big Bang to their face, as well as the HP leak that follows it. So that's a pretty big deal. I wouldn't be surprised to see them level up and prepare for the strategy of nerfing those Big Bangs and possibly walling one of the characters, likely Yang, and bouncing some attacks off to hit Zemus. Zemus, unfortunately, when hit with a spell directly, will counter with a pretty rough nuke every time. That nuke does in turn nerf the Big Bang if they're close enough together, but still pretty hurtful, especially if it hits Palom or Porum.
Yeah, it's definitely rough getting the twins over the HP threshold they need to consistently survive Big Bangs. But fortunately, with the ability to nerf the damage of Big Bang, it's not the worst thing in the world. And you know, with a party that Invenerable has with Yang and Kane with Avenger, he's going to be, you know, chopping along his merry way. He's not going to have too much trouble as long as there's some way to heal him. It won't be too bad. And looking like Inven is happy with the amount of levels and ready to go to Zemus. Meanwhile, nightdew is making the correct play and going to Cave Magnus here. It'll be interesting to see if nightdew, once upon acquiring the tower key, elects to go back into the tower, having already dipped in there once. So we'll see.
Yeah, his available options at that point would be going to the moon or going to the tower. So it would be interesting to see which decision they make, but the tower would be the quicker of the two, so he might opt to do that first.
I think Ordeals is also on the plate for nightdew.
I don't remember which key item came from there.
Yeah, that was the Baron key.
Yeah. Yep. Still has not done ordeals. May pop in there. Invenerable, meanwhile, making their way. Turned in the pass, flying by to the moon, and we're getting ready to have a Zemus fight.
Penguinator did check the top of the tower. No luck there, and now Penguinator's diving through Sylph Cave. With no pan, no less. So it's going to be a little bit of a double dip in both underworld locations for Penguinator. Supremacy finishing up the Tower of Zot. The Valvolus location has the Magus Sisters and nightdew fighting Dark Elf. But the important thing here is Invenerable on the final boss. Get your guesses in. What are we going to see here?
There is a lot of possibilities with that caster-heavy party. We're going to definitely see some manipulation of those big bangs, some nerfs in play. Rydia at the moment would be hard pressed to take one of those big bangs to the face, so probably gonna go out of their way to nerf that. In any Zeromus fight, you're typically gonna see shortly after using the crystal, typically using a silk web or something similar to try to slow Zeromus down. Especially with this party, Zeromus is gonna be pretty fast, so they're gonna want every advantage they can get. Probably going to Bacchus, Yang, and Kane to give them the Berserk status so that their agility and their strength increases, and they just basically continue to whack away at Zeromus throughout the fight. In addition to manipulating the Big Bang and attempting to nerf it, we'll likely possibly see, yeah, it looks like the Moon Veil is coming into play so that we can bounce some spells off and try to maximize damage output here. All right, so you saw there that Vitramus shook. That's an indicator of the Big Bang coming. Looks like did not get the spell off before Big Bang hit, so that's going to hurt.
Yeah, this is not going well for Invin at all.
Yeah, 2 party members already down.
Not too sure what happened there. Just
just
fast enough on the
speed.
inputs.
Yang's the anchor at the moment. His agility's pretty high. Out the gate there, really the Silk Web from Yang probably would have been the better call, but yeah, it's hard to in the heat of the moment, it's hard to make that call. You know, you don't know if once you see that shake, it's hard to judge how much time you have based on the agility. So looking to recover here. If can't heal before, all right, it looks like they got the Cure 4 off. Is going to definitely help with recovery. See if they're able to nerf another Big Bang or not. Pollen's likely going to go down because of the Moon Veil. He can't take the Cure spell. So I don't believe I saw a spell hit. So that's going to be another unnerfed Big Bang, which is going to take down Rydia and Pollum and Porum. So that's a reset. Invenerable going back to the drawing board here, seeing what they need to do, and they're going to reapproach the fight.
Yeah, having Pollum in the middle slot, especially when Yang has lower agility, a little bit devastating. But the opening with the Silk Web is definitely going to help. Silk Web has the same effect as casting slow twice, so that should slow Zeromus down a little bit. Maybe a little bit of lowering the battle speed would help there as well. So we'll see how it plays out.
Looks like meanwhile, Nightdew's taking down the tower spot to get their crystal. So Nightdew's going to be approaching go mode in just a moment. Fortunately for them, did not opt to do ordeals or the moon, so that was a good call for Nightdew. Invenerable, after that last shot, having learned some things, is going to go into the Zeromus fight with fresher eyes now, knowing how fast it is, and hopefully with a little bit of an adjusted strategy. City Cakes in the chat asked who's in the lead. Of our featured runners, Invenerable is in the lead. Amongst our racers, El Magus has finished in first with a time of 54:47 seconds.
And still no one else across the finish line yet, so looking really good for El Magus here.
Yeah, if Inven can wrap it up here, looking at a potential second place spot.
The nightdew headed into the Zemus fight as well here.
Yeah, that was a very quick recovery that just showed it as soon as they hit that 10 key items, the difference that grind makes. Made quick work of El Magus Cave and the tower slot, having already grinded it out, and just go straight to the Zemus fight.
All right, Silk Web off for Inven this time around, so going to be looking okay as long as Porum doesn't get owned here. Okay, looking good.
Not bad, not bad.
nightdew doing a little bit of final equipping here. Trying to find something a little bit better for Porum so Porum will survive, but not looking like there's too many options. Also electing to use Porum as an anchor so far. Maybe... Yeah.
Supremacy picking up the tower key, so they may not be far behind heading to that tower to get the crystal. Invenerable having a much better time with Zemus this time around, better timing out those nerfs to better handle Zemus.
Yeah, typically when you have an Avenger, the fight itself isn't the worst thing in the world as long as you can keep the Big Bangs under control, and as long as Zemus doesn't start going too fast, too furious. And I do expect a lot of people to be finishing in the next couple of minutes here. It'll be really interesting to see.
And I like what Invenerable's doing here, keeping Rydia ready with the curative item to help to mitigate that nuke attack. Very smart move. And then keeping Porum available to heal the whole party after the Big Bang. So definitely a lot more cautious going into the second round here. And meanwhile, nightdew made their way to the Zemus fight, and they're ready to begin as well.
Yeah, Penguinator doing the run around here, found the hooks, gonna go check and grab this pigtail. Unfortunately, not going to lead to any sort of key item. Still a couple of spots to check. Penguinator has done the top of the tower already, so going back in could be a while before we see that.
Spot, wasn't it? Was Adamant?
Yeah, with the rat tail, but Penguinator does not have the rat tail.
Oh, that's true.
Fight starting up here for nightdew, looking pretty good for Inven now. First one was a little bit of blow up, but now making a comeback here.
Invenerable looks like also remembering that Rydia has a Shura at this point, so that's a great healing potential. A little bit of randomness involved, but when it goes correctly, it can definitely help off-put some of the healing from Porum. Ooh, Rydia eating that nuke. That could be a potential downer. Fortunately, survived it. I feel like nightdew is definitely in a little bit of a better position here as far as party setup, having Rosa over Rydia. Definitely a little more potential, especially for healing, guaranteed healing, and just the ability to do what they need to do to nerf. But Invenerable definitely doing a lot better this time around. Black Hole here is going to make all status effects invalid. It's going to wipe the Berserks. And I believe the slow wears off of Zemus as well, so they'll have to re-up that. I could be mistaken on that point.
I'm actually not sure. I don't think it wears off, but I couldn't say with 100% certainty.
I've always tended to, in my runs specifically, I just re-up it just in case. So I've never actually gone out of my way to check and see if that's the case or not.
And we are seeing Medio for Invenerable here, so that means Zemus is in phase 3, final phase, about 12k hit points left. And down goes Vitrimus, and Invenerable is actually going to finish in second place in this race with a time of 108 flat. Congratulations to Invenerable. That's probably
Fantastic.
a qualifying time as well.
And Naitu's not far behind him. So. It's always great to see several of our featured runners get top spots. Nightdew having a pretty good Zemus fight so far. Not much struggle happening as of yet.
So far, so good for Nightdew. Supremacy up in the tower, so Supremacy will be happy to find that the tower key will, in fact, lead to the crystal. And unfortunately for Penguinator, checking all the wrong places. But he will pick up Rosa for his trouble. Rosa's always a welcome sight, though he has already done a bit of grinding. Can't decide what he wants to do. He's actually going to dismiss a melee character, and that indicates to me that he is looking to reflect kill Zemus, which is an interesting decision. Shouldn't be too much longer here for Nightdew now. Looking pretty good in this Zemus fight. And shouldn't be too much longer. Kane putting down the DPS. Looking like we're going to see a Meteor here any second. And Nightdew probably going to be happy with this finish. Perhaps not pretty, but looking good.
Hello,
Inven.
Invenerable in here for a quick interview here. Second place, congratulations. That's a fantastic run.
Well, it feels like it could have been a bit better. I was forced to learn the lesson again that even kind of over-leveled, having bad agility at Z will punish you a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely an unfortunate first fight. Real quick here, Nightdew finishing in third place, 111.20. Congratulations to Nightdew. Sorry to
Congrats, Nightdew.
Hey,
Yeah, and at least you learned that lesson quick. You got back in there. You know, you made the decision, just quick reset. You got back in, you learned the lesson, and you knocked it out. And it was a fantastic run. What did you think of that seed there?
Felt so slow going early on. That's the reason why I went and did the mid-game egg grind, just because Yang without levels doesn't do damage, and then Edward plus the 3 children, it was like, let me go take the time to do this now, just to make sure no enemies will stand in my way. Like, I imagine Maga Sisters were probably nasty for anyone who was in there at, typical levels.
It definitely paid off for you. It was good to see. Just quickly want to point out, Demeron finished with the time of 1 hour, 13 minutes, 12 seconds in 4th place. Swimmy Liani, I apologize if I mispronounced that, finished in 5th place with 1 hour, 13 minutes. So, yeah, you got in there just in time. That was a great finish.
All right, well, hey guys, thank you for all that you do. I'm sure the restream is going amazingly. I'm going to dip out and watch the rest of it and enjoy your commentary.
Thanks for joining us, and congrats again on that 2nd place spot.
Thank you.
All right, should be seeing a lot of people rolling in here. Kind of hitting that point of where people are going to be hitting all of the possible item location checks sooner or later, and anticipating a lot of finishes here in the next couple of minutes. We've got Supremacy. Supremacy is going to be exiting the Tower of Babel, and that's going to allow Supremacy to pick up the crystal. It'll be a welcome sight. And Penguinator actually electing to grind right now. Nothing wrong with that. Has way over 10 key items at this point. And we'll knock that out, get that out of the way. And obviously, having done the grinding early, as Invenerable mentioned, lets you get through the boss fights a lot quicker than had you not done the grinding. And that was definitely a point of advantage for Invenerable, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely made a big difference in his run there, so that was a good call for sure. Supremacy now in go mode is taking the time to stop and finish up his grinding so they can get prepared for Zemus. And you definitely have to think with the times brought in by Elmagus and Venerable Nightdew that that's very promising for their potential qualifying for the tournament.
Oh, absolutely, especially in a race of this size. Elmagus' Z-score is going to be through the freaking roof. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty much anybody who's going to finish in the top, 25% has a relatively decent shot at making it in. It depends on how the rest of the seed plays out. The Z-score and what we're using to evaluate the times of people who qualify. Obviously, you can't compare one seed to the next, and so we're doing both a combination of calculating the mean and the standard deviation, and some other fun maths. You can see it in the doc if you're that interested in it. And so essentially, the farther ahead you finished from the average time, the more likely you are to qualify.
Yeah, and at this point, only 5 racers have finished. So as that time continues to grow, that only increases their chances and increases their, well, actually decreases. I think the lower your Z-score is, the better, if I recall correctly. But definitely fantastic work by our featured runners today. I see several egg fights here while our remaining featured runners are grinding.
And we do have a 6th place finisher. Mr. Ubeek has finished in 6th place, a time of 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 56 seconds. Congratulations to him.
Congratulations, fantastic time. And again, my friends call me Casual Plug Dave for a reason. If you find that this randomizer looks interesting to you, if you've never tried it, be sure to check it out at ff4-free-enterprise.com. Fantastic community on our Discord, and just a real fun game, often compared to the Link to the Past randomizer, because it's very much a treasure hunt. And even if you're not overly familiar with Final Fantasy IV, if you haven't played it in a long time, kind of like I was going into this, it's a lot of fun, and a very welcoming community, very open to new people, and definitely get in there. We'd love to see you.
Ravlin has finished 7th place, 1:17:39. Looking pretty good in terms of qualifying there as well. We've got Supremacy and Penguinator grinding away here. Supremacy should be pretty close to beating the final guy any moment now. Level's looking actually really high. Wants to make sure that there's no problems on the Zemus fight. Kane rocking that 3k HP. Should be pretty good. Actually, what Supremacy is probably doing is making sure Porum has the HP pool to survive the Big Bangs. And so that's going to make the fight pretty much a cakewalk. I don't want to jinx anybody, but we'll see how it goes.
Supremacy as well may potentially be setting up a little bit of agility manipulation as well, getting that HP pool up in addition to getting the agility to kind of what we would consider a sweet spot for relative agility to make for easy manipulation.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Penguinator electing to bop Kane there. So, not too sure what that's about. But Penguinator definitely has the caster party going here. The idea being that if you throw a wall on one of your characters and then bounce spells off of it, the damage done to Zemus, or any enemy in this game in that case, will not actually trigger any of the scripts. And so you'll keep Zemus in phase 1. He will only have 65k, or I think it's actually 61k hit points, as opposed to the normal refresh he gets that gives him about 110k. So it'll be a little bit on the quicker side. You don't have to deal with meteos, but at the same time, watching all the spell animations and watching them bounce off walls does take a little bit of time, so it kind of evens out ultimately in the long run.
Yeah, the additional levels here will definitely maximize that damage output and their survivability to just really rush down Zemus and take care of him quickly. Looks like Supremacy here doing a little bit of some safety strats to just kind of make sure the party has got some decent items going in.
Yep, Penguinator once again on the hunt for the crystal, has not yet found it, but does have the grind done, so that's nice. Meanwhile, Dipwood has finished in 8th place, a time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, 31 seconds. Given the number of people in this race, that is very likely a league qualifying time as well. We shall see.
Congratulations to Dipwood. Yeah, Trent in chat, you do make a good point. Supremacy does not have great items going into this fight. However, did grind out some additional levels there, so that's going to help. As long as plays the fight smart, should be able to do well, even with those limited items.
Yeah, given the amount of leveling that Supremacy has done, I'm not too terribly concerned, but we shall see.
Doing a little bit of inventory manipulation here to make sure it's easy to choose those items quickly during the fight. And Penguinator making their way to Sheila to get the items from her.
Oh man, 9th, 10th, 11th place. Dragus 122.20, 9th place. Kirchin 122.24, 10th place. Flurry 14 122.25, 11th place. They're coming in hot. JC 87 12th place, 122.40. So they are rolling in.
Definitely have our sweet spot here. Uncommon Soul in chat asks, so what is Vitrimus? It's just a palette swap. We have a flag built into the randomizer that's more or less just for fun. It randomizes the palette that Zemus has at the end. It could be could be Vitrimus from Legend of Zelda. It could be Ganonmus from Legend of Zelda. You never know what you're going to run into. Could be Lavosmus from Chrono Trigger.
There's definitely a lot of good ones in here. I've got my favorites. And it's always interesting when a new patch gets released. You always get a new batch of them too. So you're like, oh, what am I going to get now?
It's kind of little Easter eggs in here, similar to in the Magnus Cave when you're facing the Dark Elf slot. The song that Edward will play for you is also randomized. So it's just a little fun Easter egg for people that frequently run it.
And we do have a 13th place finisher, Bentizi, 13th with a 123.46. So starting to get into that point of where, depending on where the rest of the field finishes, you might make it, you might not.
And Zyrak, not sure how you pronounce that, finished 14th place with 124.09. It looks like the 120 to 130 time slot's going to be kind of a hotbed here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more finishes.
Yeah, more finishes like Supremacy here. Looking to get rolling on Vitreous. And yep, we do have more people rolling in. Chokosura done in 15th with a 124.36. Not too bad.
As is typical for the Zemus fight, you see him berserking the melee characters. Using that silk web to manipulate Zemus and nerf the Big Bang attack that will come afterwards, as well as, of course, slowing down, which is pretty necessary. Very fast boss. And even with that nerf Big Bang there, it shows the difference that items can make. Supremacy going into this fight with somewhat weak items for protection, and even nerfed Big Bang was doing over 1,000 damage to some characters. So an unnerved Big Bang could be very lethal for his party. He's going to have to really keep that in check. While you see him keeping Palom at the ready here, as soon as he sees the visual cue, likely to execute that. Noticing that Kane is low on health, he opted to instead use a curative item on Kane, but is keeping Porum at the ready to trigger that nerf if necessary. Seeing the visual cue of the shake there is opting to use a silk web, which items are typically quicker to cast than spells, so the silk web is a good item to use for nerfing the Big Bang. Probably we'll see a lot of that here because Supremacy just cannot afford to get an unnerfed Big Bang at this point.
Yeah, looking like Vitreous playing ball, going after the white mage every single time. A little bit unfortunate, and the damage rolls on Big Bang can be pretty varying. Even if you have the best armor in the game, sometimes it can just whack you, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it can definitely hurt. Supremacy, however, playing very smart, using Palom to throw curatives when needed. Is even though Porum's been taking nukes like a boss, she's been getting healed quickly. So it looks like opting now to put a wall on Sid so they can reflect some spells off to try to maximize damage output. Looks like Shamstron finished in 16th place with 126.04. Bill Boddocks finished in 17th place with 1 hour 26:17 seconds.
Definitely rolling in here. Meanwhile, Penguinator has gone to Cave Magnets and picked up the tower key. So he will go ahead and cash in that tower key and pick up the crystal eventually. A little bit unfortunate with how it played out.
At the very least, Penguinator has done his grinding, so once he hits go mode, basically just go straight to Zemus. So.
Yeah, he's going to give us a fun fight. Looking like Supremacy's done. Going to be 18th place. Final time, official SRL time of 127.26. That's good for 18th. Mortalamago has finished in 19th, 127.33, just 7 seconds behind. And we also have Mechalink coming in 20th, 128.03. We got that's about the top third of the field is now complete.
Yeah, that's correct. Matchbox Matt just finished in 21st place with a time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, 34 seconds. Meanwhile, our featured runner Penguinator is finishing off the tower here. And should hopefully be making their way to Zemus shortly. Muppets in Space finished in 22nd place with a time of 1 hour 28:51. Fizz Plays Games has finished in 23rd place with a time of 1 hour 28 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yep, rolling in Narcotis 24th place, 129.16. So Penguinator is going to give us a bit of a show here. Having a pretty much full caster party means he will be doing the reflect kill. So that's not something you get to see every day. It's a speedrun strat, mostly. It's used in a couple of fights throughout the speedrun itself, where you're using spells bounced off walls to skip some battle triggers, and it'll be interesting to see.
And JJ Blue finishing in 25th place with a time of 129.59. Penguinator now making their way to the Zemus fight. I definitely agree that it's going to be interesting to see that caster-heavy party. Probably many would say it's not the easier strat, depending on who you ask, but definitely effective one if pulled off correctly.
So it just goes to show you, this randomizer is both a combination of luck and obviously the faster you can check all locations, the better. That's where the skill comes in, but there's definitely a bit of luck involved. If you happen upon the place that has a crystal, as you're just kind of meandering around, then you're going to be in good shape. And it's looking like we're going to pull Supremacy in here for an interview.
And just a quick note as well, Rex Rawl finished in 26th place with a time of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 2 seconds.
Hello, Supremacy. Congratulations on your run.
Thank you. Feeling a little bit disappointed by getting baited by ordeals, but...
So what do you feel were your major hangups in that seed? Did you run into any particular roadblocks that you were like, whoa, this sucks?
I mean, it's got to be that Wyvern at Ordeals was definitely not a fun one. But after I beat it, I was really hoping it had to be required, so that everyone else had to deal with that pain. And then when I believe that gave me the Baron key, so I had to head straight there to hope it paid off. That Plague was a bit of a pain in the butt. So again, was really hoping that paid off, and it didn't. So then I was kind of back to, oh yeah, well, I guess I've had this Twin Harp for a while. Let's check that. And turns out that was the key all along.
Yeah, it was definitely a seed of baits. A lot of people running around, checking all of the locations but the tower. It seems like a lot of people tend to not check the tower until they have the key, and then the Twin Harp location, not exactly a popular spot either. So definitely one that favored be more adventurous, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the early Excalibur and then Crystal Sword pickup really wanted me to find Cecil somewhere, but he was not anywhere to be found for me.
It must have been hiding out in Nebulin or on the moon. None of our featured runners really went in any of those directions, so we didn't really see, but I can only assume it was in one of those spots. Possibly the package as well.
Who was at the Dwarf Castle?
That would be Rosa.
Yeah, Rosa. Yep.
Well, that would have been nice if I'd done it earlier, but oh well. Porum still did the job.
Yeah, right now, Penguinator going into Zemus with a almost full mage party, 4 mages and Kane, showing off the mage strats for dealing with Zemus.
Those are always fun.
So Supremacy, how are you feeling about your time? Looks like, let's see, where did you end up finishing? It looks like, sorry, yeah, so many people finishing the last couple seconds. 18th. 18th out of 65. That's probably right on the bubble. Are you going to be able to make any of the future qualifiers and try and improve your time, or are you going to roll with this one?
I'm for sure going to have to try the future qualifiers. I know there's, 121 entrants, so top 26-ish percent will go. I don't think 18 out of 60 will hit that threshold, even with Elmega's screwing up the bell curve a little bit.
Yeah, he was definitely really far ahead of the pack there. So it'll be interesting to see how the scoring plays out.
Pretty sure he doesn't have to worry about any other qualifiers.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's pretty much good to go. And since we've been talking here, Dragon Darch finished in 27th with an hour 31:35. Liam Atlas finished in 28th with 1:32:04. Dusty Griff finished in 29th with 1:32:33, and Vatasia finished in 30th with 1:34:29. So we're definitely kind of getting a good idea of what that mean time medium ground is going to be. As I was saying, that Aizen Tayama finished in 31st with 1:35:10.
So now that you do have a potentially qualifying time, do you feel like you're going to play the future qualifiers that may be a bit more risky, or are you just going to keep doing what you do?
I think I'm just going to keep doing what I do. I don't want to overthink it too much. I know if I try to take all the gambles and none of them pay off, then I'm just shooting myself in the foot. When I think I can just do a lot better just by playing my own game and just following wherever the siege tries to point me, hoping it doesn't bait me as hard as that one did.
Yeah, it's always the right play until it's wrong.
Exactly.
That's kind of the name of the game.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, Supremacy. Congratulations on finishing close to qualifying. We aren't too sure how that's going to play out yet, but definitely a good show, and best of luck to you.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, Supremacy.
All right, got a couple more finishers here. Golden Hades, 32nd, 135.40. Kedril, 33rd, 135.45. And Gaming with a Wraith, 34th, 135.58.
Penguinator struggling a little bit here, but looks like making it up on the end leg of Zemus.
Yeah, looks like he ran into a couple problems. Some of the kids got bopped. Kane got bopped, so he had to re-up that wall, but probably not going to run into too much trouble here. His two primary damage dealers are still alive, Ingridia and Pollen, so
A little potentially too damage heavy and was letting his party take a lot of hits, but since recovered from that and looking pretty good here.
And that's going to do it. Penguinator's final time, 136.31. That's going to be good for 35th of 65. This is not Yoho, 36, 136.37. And Schmitty Games, 37, 137 flat. So Penguinator definitely going to be looking to improve this one. 35th, probably not going to be good enough to qualify unless something crazy happens with the final finishers here. So he'll be looking to do the other qualifiers. Once again, we have 4 qualifiers. It's just the first of 4, and we take the highest Z score of all 4 races, and the top 32 of that will move on. So you get multiple chances to qualify as long as you can make the race times, of course.
Yeah, still have 3 more qualifying races, so all the runners will have more than enough additional opportunities to improve upon those times. The best of the 4 qualifiers will be the score that goes towards the final tally.
And yeah, so once again, this was our first highway to the Zemus-Zone qualifier race. If you're interested in reading more about the league, there are all kinds of documentation and fun stuff available for you if you follow the links that are in the chat right now. And that's going to do it for us here today, but we do have our second qualifier race on Thursday. That's going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you've enjoyed watching this one, you want to see more people challenging the league, trying to get in, it's a fun time, come join us Thursday evening. And once again, my name is Neerim. I'm joined by Casual Geek Dave. Thank you, Dave. I know you're probably itching to get into these qualifier races yourself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I want to say thank you to Rivers McCown for handling the restream, and Shala Kitty for handling tracking today, I should say. And yeah, thank you, Neerim. It was a pleasure commentating with you. This is a fantastic race. Thanks everyone for joining us.
And thank you, and see you Thursday.